So I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. And originally back in the 1800s, this was the first capital of Tennessee. Then it switched to Murfreesboro, and now, of course, we all know it's the capital of Tennessee is Nashville. But Knoxville, at one time, was the capital. It was the original capital city. Has a population around 200,000, and it's rising quickly, like a lot of cities in Tennessee. Tennessee has become one of the states that people are moving to as they're moving out of all these other states. This is one of those states that has become the most desirable, and Knoxville has benefited from that. It's 73% white, 17% black, 5% Hispanic, and 1% Asian. So it's fairly diverse. I mean, there's a large white population, but it's fairly diverse. The average age is 33, and only 17% of the adults are seniors. So it's definitely a younger population that lives here. There's a 46% homeownership rate, which is 26% lower than the national average. But I consider any city that has 50% or more as doing pretty good, and will have a better chance at keeping a handle on their crime levels. So 46%, you know, it's not good, but it's not bad either. The average income is around $40,000 a year, and there's a 21% poverty rate. So basically 1 in every 5 people that live here live below the poverty rate. The $40,000 a year is actually pretty good for a city of this size. It's not high, but it's pretty good. The poverty rate is, it sounds high, but it's kind of typical of cities these days in America. They have a 34% marriage rate, which is a little on the lower side, but that could be just because they have a smaller or a younger population, and the people just, the adults here just haven't gotten married yet. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. They're just a younger population. 59% of the people were born either here in Knoxville or born in Tennessee. So well over half of the people that live here were either born here or, you know, in Tennessee at some point. Let's turn up one of these roads. Yeah, this looks better. 6% are foreign born, and 4% are considered non-citizens, but we know the non-citizen number is, you know, it's just a number. You have to have somebody admit that they're here illegally in order for that number to even count, and that's not going to always be accurate. As far as homicides go, in 2019 they had 22. In 2020 they had 37. 2021 they had 40, and then in 2022 it went down to 32. And this was giving them murder rates. You want to follow this guy? This was giving them murder rates in the mid to upper teens. So they started pre the summer of Floyd with 22 homicides. It jumped up 15 in 2020 from the year before, during the summer of Floyd. And 2021 went up even higher. Like a lot of cities, 2021 was the worst year. 2020 was bad, and then 2021 was even worse. And then they're doing pretty good. They're bringing the numbers back down, which a lot of cities have yet to figure out how to do. A lot of cities are still like in those same numbers. I don't know what this guy's doing. Oh wow, whole bunch of homeless people on the side right there. I don't know if the camera caught that. I turned that corner and there was a bunch of homeless people sitting in a windowsill. But 2021 across America was probably the worst of the years. 2020 kicked it off. 2021 it kept, you know, it kept getting worse from there. And then 2022, most of the cities were able to like bring it back down, but they didn't get it back down to pre-pandemic, pre-Summer of Floyd, you know, levels. So they're running in with murder rates that are in the mid to upper teens, which for perspective on that is like around Minneapolis levels. Not as high as Chicago levels, but definitely in around that Minneapolis levels, so not good. The assault rates here are in the 600s. Is this guy gonna go? No. The assault rates here are in the 600s, which is higher than Chicago levels. Chicago levels are like around 550 for your assaults. That's per 100,000 people. So the assaults are higher than Chicago, and the murder rates are about the same as Minneapolis. And neither of those are cities that you really want to be compared to. The theft rates are in the 3,000s per 100,000 people. So that's not good, but it's not horrible either. And this whole part of the downtown right here is kind of cute. It's kind of nice. So far, like just visually looking at the city, there were those homeless people. When I turned that corner, there were the homeless people there. And, but it hasn't been all, the roads are good, and it hasn't been all graffiti. Well, there's graffiti right on the, I don't know if the camera's catching that, to the right, down in that little area, there's a bunch of graffiti there. But the graffiti hasn't been out of control, and there's not a lot of garbage, at least that I've seen so far. So far it's been halfway decent as far as, you know, all the boxes that you check to see how bad a city is. The violent crime comes in at 128% worse than the national average. And I consider the 80, 90, 100% to be regular city bad, like the level of crime, violent crime that you would expect to see in an American city. So 128 is higher than regular city bad, but not to a point where it's, you know, really out of control. It's not even to that iffier category yet. The property crime is right at 100% higher than the national average, so right around that, you know, regular city levels, the stuff you'd expect as far as like thefts and that, just, you know, what you'd expect living in a city, what you'd expect to see in a you know, regular city levels. Your odds of becoming a victim of a crime here is 1 in 22, which is kind of typical of a city. I mean, it sounds like, you know, if you think about it, you drive down a block and see 22 people and then go, well, one of those people is going to become a victim of a crime. It sounds like it's high, but this is just America. It's all the cities are like this, so I'm not going to knock Knoxville on that. It's all the cities are just kind of like that. And they're showing a year-over-year decrease in crime, so it's getting better of 2%. And like I said, they started pulling back. 2021 was their, like, they peaked, and they've been slowly bringing it back. So they're nowhere near back to where they were, you know, pre-2020, but they're slowly bringing it down, which is more than you can say about a lot of American cities. A lot of them just get stuck up there, and it's not going anywhere. The schools here are where things are bad, and most of the people keep moving to Tennessee. The schools in Florida are a lot better than the schools in Tennessee in general, like on a general, you know, 30,000 foot view of it. And if you're coming here, the schools in Knoxville, 34% of the students graduate proficient at reading and math. 34%. In the state of Tennessee, the average is 35%, and in America, the average is 40%. So less than half of the kids in America graduate at a 12th grade level for reading and math. And in the state of Tennessee, it's basically 1 in 3, and that's pretty much the same here in Knoxville. It's about 1 in every 3 are graduating at a 12th grade level for reading and math. So when you think about a city with crime, the best way to curb that crime is to have the kids graduate and become productive members of society, which when they can't read or do math at even a 12th grade level, that becomes more and more difficult. So the crime just naturally, because of that, tends to start, going up, because they can't get good jobs, and the crime just goes up. So 84% of the people that live here completed the 8th grade, and 83% are high school graduates. Again, I'm not going to knock the city for that, because that's just what it's like in America now. You would like to think it's that pretty much everybody graduates high school, and they just don't. America has gotten so dumb, like literally dumb, and it's like they don't care. They don't care if the kids really graduate. And that's where it's just come, that they, I'm not saying that as a blanket statement, because there are people that do care, but as a whole, they've accepted the fact that 34% of the kids, only 1 in every 3 kids, they can read and do math at a 12th grade level. That has become acceptable. So when that becomes your standard and is considered acceptable, you can't expect the crime to get better. It's only just going to keep getting worse, and that's across the board. 30% of the people that live here have a bachelor's degree or higher, so 1 out of every 3 have a higher education degree, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. The college degrees are kind of overrated sometimes, as far as I'm concerned, because people can be very successful without them. But it just shows that it's not a very well educated population that lives here, and the population just isn't. It's not setting itself up for success as far as stopping crime and keeping crime. I mean, the cops can do whatever they want, but if the kids can't get jobs once they graduate high school, if they graduate, because you're looking at basically 4 out of every 5 are graduating, in around that number. So it's not a large number of people that are graduating, period. And when only 34% of them can read and do math, that's not a large number of kids entering the workforce every year that can get good jobs. And the 30%, who knows if those are people with the bachelor's degree or higher, they could be the people that are moving in, for all we know. It might not even be the people that were born here. It's people that moved here from another state, that has a better, what is going on here? You're not even going to stop, dude? Good, because I want to go up this road. That has a better education system than Tennessee has. So if this is a place that you want to move to for work, Tennessee in general, if you have kids, make sure you research the area and make sure you know what the schools are in the area before you move there, because I'm sure there's good schools. It's just in general they're not. So you just have to do a little research and make sure you're finding areas that have good schools for your kids, and just kind of research which areas are bad. The crime here isn't horribly bad. Like I said, the assault rates are close to that or right around that of Chicago, and the murder rates are around the same as Minneapolis, and neither of those numbers are good, but it's not out of control here, and they're showing a decrease, so it's possible that they have a handle on it and everything will get better. So if you plan on moving here, just do a little research, make sure you're moving to a neighborhood, a town that's nice and doesn't have a higher, the higher levels of crime, and just make sure that the schools are good. That's going to be the number one thing if you have kids, is make sure you get them in an area where the school district is actually doing a good job, because if 1 out of every 3 is all that's going to come out of the school, being able to read and do math at a 12th grade level, and that's not like asking them to be rocket scientists. That's just asking them to, you know, a 12th grade level. You don't want your kid to be one of those 2 out of 3. So I'm going to let this play out for a little bit while I drive a little further. But for the most part, you know, there was those homeless people. There's a little bit of garbage, but nothing that you would complain about. There was graffiti, but not on any level that, you know, would alarm you. I mean, it's, you know, there was some, but there wasn't a lot. You know, there was some, what is with this light? There was some litter, but not a ton. I'm gonna blow this light in a minute. This is seriously the longest light ever. How long have I been sitting at this light? There's no cars. There's literally no cars coming from either direction. And the light is still green going the other way, and there's literally no cars on the road except for me sitting here. So I'm gonna make you guys sit through this light with me, and then I'm gonna cut this video out because this is the longest light ever. But the city in general, it looked kind of cute. There was that cute like old town style. Here we go, we're gonna change. There was that cute old style part of town that we drove through. Medical response team, please don't cause the light not to change. Please don't cause the light not to change by that guy going through it. Oh my gosh. Now it changed back to green going the other way. This is literally the longest light ever. I was here, it was just about to change. That medical unit put its lights on, and probably, I don't know if they can trigger these lights, but then they triggered it. I want to turn right just to go up and make a U-turn or something, but part of me wants to sit here just to see how long this will let me sit at this light not doing anything. I mean, seriously, there is not a single car in either direction on this road, and it's still letting me just sit here at this light. I'm gonna inch forward a little bit, see if I trigger something. It's seriously just letting me sit here. Okay, good. Here's a car's pulling up behind me. Maybe that'll trigger. Oh, here we go. There's the light's gonna change now. Although I said that before. This was the longest light. Come on. Come on. Come on. Just change already. It changed going the other way on this side. I can't see what the other side is doing. Oh my gosh, it just changed back to green. You have got to be kidding me right now. It just changed back to green. It literally did not give us the light. I got a guy behind me now, so there's 2 of us here. I would just turn and go up and then just drive out of here a different way. There's part of me that just wants to sit here and see how long this light will make me sit here. This is why people blow lights, though. There was okay, here comes a truck. He's the only, now there's no cars at all in either direction at all that you can see in either direction. No cars. And it's still staying green going on that road. And it's changed twice, but hasn't gone to green on the, okay, now it's turning yellow. Is that guy stopping? Okay, thank you. All right, so I just made you guys sit through the longest light in the history of lights. And if anybody actually sat through all that with me, I thank you for that. But that's it. That's all I got for Knoxville. It looks good. Like I said, just if you're moving here, check the neighborhood. Make sure you're in a good one, because I'm sure it's probably just a couple areas that make the whole thing bad. And definitely, if you have kids or you're going to have kids, check out the school districts, because they're bad in Tennessee everywhere. So just, that's something you got to do, well, anywhere you go, but especially in a state that's got bad schools. All right, well, I'm going to let this play out for a second longer. I'm like, keep getting stuck at all these lights. This one hopefully changes fast. There we go. So, all right, well, thanks for watching, and thanks for sitting with me through that, the longest light in the history of lights.